Welcome, everyone. Mayor's traveling tonight and won't be joining us. First time on our agenda is proposed internal audit work plan that was reviewed by the audit committee. We have Brian Mersel joining us. Brian, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council members, I appreciate the opportunity to present to you today, and I want to thank you for your feedback and support over this last fiscal year. The Office of Internal Audit was established in 2003, and we strive to promote continuous improvement in all city operations with a systematic and disciplined approach. Systematic meaning audits are planned, executed, and documented using standardized steps. This includes risk assessments, audit programs, and reporting. Disciplined meaning we adhere to professional standards and ethical guidelines. Our team is currently made up of 3 motivated audit professionals. As required by City Code, annually we prepare a proposed work plan for the Office of Internal Audit to present to City Council for review and adoption. This led to the following projects that were taken to Audit Committee on August 26th for discussion and review. The top section makes up our regular daily, weekly, and monthly and quarterly reviews. For continuous auditing, we review accounts payable on a weekly basis, where we look for expense and account propriety. So far this year, we've reviewed approximately $329 million in invoices, and we performed 160 follow-up inquiries. Issues that we find can include invoice errors, untimeliness, or accounting errors. We perform a daily review of purchasing card activities to verify expense propriety. So far this year, we have reviewed approximately 12 million in transactions and performed 308 follow-up inquiries. The daily reviews are valuable for identifying issues early, allowing us to initiate corrective action promptly. Issues we find can be fraudulent, accidental usage, or untimeliness of account deactivation. We perform a monthly review of travel activity where we report on citywide travel and assess the timeliness of the travel settlements. We perform a quarterly payroll review, and we are available for consulting projects for special requests we receive from City Council or management. The below section contains individual projects to be scheduled throughout the year. As part of that process, we complete a risk assessment to assign risk grades to divisions across the city based on financial, operations, staffing, legal and regulatory oversight, and audit experience or City Council interest. That process led to the following proposed projects. Fire training, where we will review activity to verify compliance with applicable policies, contracts, and regulations. Engineering, we will review developmental processes and procedures around hillside development and drainage. We will analyze associated revenues and expenses. Risk management, we will review risk management processes, including safety inspections and follow-up procedures. Payroll overtime analysis. We will evaluate overtime trends, identify drivers, and review compliance with applicable policies and regulations. Parks and Recreation. We will analyze associated revenues and expenses, review activity scheduling, and controls over inventory. Activity scheduling will include adherence to safety standards and verifying staff certifications current. Travel and meal expense. We will review travel expenses for accuracy and compliance and verify that meal expenses are properly supported. And police inventory. We will review controls and procedures that provide for accountability and safeguarding of weapons. We want to ensure all firearms, tasers, ammunition, and other tactical gear are accounted for to include storage, maintenance, and disposal. And with that, I'm happy to stand for questions you may have, and I am requesting approval for the FY26 audit work plan. Thank you.
Council?
Mr. Mayor. Brian, thank you so much for providing us this detailed proposal for this coming year. I appreciate the thoroughness and the dedication from your office and looking at this and how we can look to do things better and to make sure we're doing things as we say we're doing them, and that which is the purpose of that audit. Do we need to make a motion for approval for the work plan?
No action. Just give Brian your props for his good work.
Great work. Yeah, and support the plan moving forward. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Corliss, thank you very much. It's an honor.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Morales.
I will also just add those props. We really appreciate this work that's done. I appreciate the reports that we get to review, seeing the actions that are taken when we're noticing issues. So thank you for all the diligence. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Morales, thank you very much. It's an honor.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Halburn.
Yeah, Brian, I've gotten the chance to work with you a lot over the years. One of the things I really appreciate about audit is that I think a lot of times when we think of audit, we think of, preventing fraud. And certainly there is that, and there's accountability to that. But a lot of times it's just fixing simple mistakes, little tiny errors that could add up to something bigger. And your department does a really good job at making sure that we catch those early, that we fix those mistakes, we educate people, and that our departments improve along the way. So I appreciate your work there. I just wanted to double check. You did ask for approval?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Council Member Halliburton, yes, I am requesting approval for the FY26 audit work plan.
Mr. Mayor, I think we probably could just do a simple approval motion.
Sure. I think audit committee has approved it, and that's the governing authority, but I'm fine with if council wants to weigh in too. So we'd just entertain a motion to affirm the direction of the audit committee's, and the audit team's work plan.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to affirm the direction from the audit team for the direction for this next fiscal year.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you very much.
Tyler?
Mr. Mayor, council members, thanks for having me. Is my mic on? So I'm here to talk to you guys today about code compliance. And I was asked to just give a quick update on things because we have made some changes within the city in the past couple of years. Where is code compliance? We're currently within the Department of Planning and Development Services. That changed about a year ago when we reorganized a couple of our departments. We previously were in finance administration, and we're now in in PDS, but we still work very closely with the clerk's office. We did find that moving that from one department to another is a lot better aligned, especially with all the ongoing code changes that we've had with the continuous improvement of the city code. So my team is actually called Code Compliance and Community Resources. It's quite a mouthful. That encompasses code compliance, parking compliance, and animal. I'm here mainly just to talk about code, but I'm more than happy to answer any parking questions you guys might have. And then if there's a reason in the future, I'm happy to come back with more of a parking specific parking presentation. And animal compliance is not exactly what you think. I do oversee the contract with the Humane Society for the animal control services, but this is just a team of 5 that actually patrols our city parks and issues tickets for dogs being off leash. And also housekeeping, feel free to interrupt me because I do tend to talk really quickly. The code compliance team is made up of 1 manager and 7 code officers. Kind of like your council districts, they're divided into geographic areas. That helps the code officers kind of focus their attention in the areas that they're assigned to. We have 1 administrative support staff person that takes all the complaints and then routes them to the officers in their respective areas. The primary responsibilities of the code team, I hate reading a list, but I'm going to go ahead and do it just because it's really small on the screen. The main things we focus on are businesses operating in residential zones, prohibited outdoor storage, weeds, excessive yard sales, farm animals, site obstructions at intersections, vacant buildings in parking in lawns, RV and habitation, inoperable unregistered vehicles, and burn ban complaints. And then the last one is graffiti. The main goal of these team, when these cases are open, the main goal is to gain compliance quickly so that we can kind of protect the fabric of our neighborhoods. Part of what the code team does as well is business licensing enforcement. This is why we still continue to work very closely with the clerk's office. For a lot of the businesses where a license is required, my team will actually do the background checks and approve those workflows so that those licenses can get issued. We also work very closely with BPD and ISP on alcohol compliance to inspect certain types of businesses. We work closely with the health department for businesses that serve food and alcohol. We regulate the sidewalk cafes in downtown, and we still work very closely with the clerk's office on all those items. So how it kind of works is the complaint is received either by phone, the website, or by email, and our admin person evaluates each one of those and kind of surface level make sure that it does sound like it's a violation of code. If it is, she'll go ahead and open up a case and distribute to the field. The officer then goes out to the property, and the picture I have here is kind of an example of a case that we would probably open. The officer would go out, confirm it's an actual violation, and then make contact with the property owner. And that's usually done by either sending a notice of violation by mail, leaving a door hanger on the property, or posting a notice. A lot of things we deal with are vacant fields, so there's really no door to put a hanger on or an address to mail anything to. The officer would then give the property owner generally 10 days to comply, and then do follow-up inspections to make sure that that's being taken care of. I know the text is really small in this, but the main gist of this is that the two most common complaints we have are outdoor storage, which would be like junk and trash and debris on a property. And then by far the most common complaint we have is weeds. So this is a really good example of a weed case that we would open. So we don't open a case if you just have a couple dandelions in your neighbor's yard, but when the weeds become 12 inches high and cover 50% or more of the property, that would prompt us to open up a code case, and the officer would go out and make contact. Generally what we do, kind of like I said before, is make contact with the owner, give them some time to get self-compliance. In the event that we don't get compliance from the property owner, we would then hire a contractor to actually come down and cut the weeds. And the standard that we go to is a property that looks like this photograph here, where we cut it down to about 4 inches, unless it's on a hillside where we leave about 6 inches, and that's to make sure that we're not causing any undue erosion with the hillside and drainage. And then the other exception would be if you have a very large, like multi-acre property, we probably only require a 30-foot swath around the edges for that to create that defensible space in the case of a fire. The other most common one we have is outdoor storage. Photograph we have here is a pretty good example of something that we would open a case on. Just keep in mind, we only address cases where you can see the outdoor storage from the public right of way. We don't go into houses, we don't go into garages or backyards unless the outdoor storage is visible from the public right of way. Same as with the weeds, we would generally give a time frame to clean up the property. And in the event that we don't have compliance, we would again hire a contractor to help us clean up the property. One of the things that kind of comes up from time to time is proactive complaints versus complaint-driven complaints. We are currently complaint-driven only. And there's a reason for that. If we had code officers driving around looking for code violations, it would be very cumbersome and very resource heavy to actually have officers patrol. So we really leave it up to the community to tell us what problems are in the neighborhoods. And that's, again, we'd have to add a lot more staff if we were actually driving around looking for code cases. One of the new things that we are doing now is graffiti, which the last time I talked to the council was about graffiti abatement. So this is still reports have to go through police first, because the idea is that they would like to catch the perpetrator that actually did the graffiti first, especially if there's any gang affiliation. So once police has done their investigation, then they refer it over to our team. And then if it's on a public bridge, we'll work with ITD or ACHD to try to get them to clean up that property. If it's on a private parcel, like the example in the photograph, this would be on the side of a building that's privately owned. We would then work with the property owner to get that cleaned up. The main goal that I'm working on right now with graffiti is to actually explore adding some technology that would help the community report that to the city a little bit more quickly. We have a pretty clunky process where, again, it goes to dispatch, gets routed to police, gets over to us. By the time we actually get it cleaned up, it's been several days, if not weeks. So if we can get some technology in place, we can hopefully get that cleaned up a little bit more quickly. That was the end of my presentation. So happy to stand for any questions regarding parking or any other code or any of the data that I presented today.
Councilmember Corliss.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Tyler, thanks so much for coming out today. It was code enforcement was one of those areas that was I thought would be really important to kind of dive a little bit deeper in understanding. So this is really helpful. Would you mind going back to the slide that shows kind of the breakdown of the calls and the I have a couple of questions if you don't mind. On residential parking, is this parking that is either on the premise or is it on roads? Like they're parking their cars in their yard or they shouldn't be parking it on the street?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Corliss, this is going to be a combination of both. We have to limit the categories that we have so we don't have too many open categories. Generally, if it's on the street, it's going to either be an abandoned vehicle, which would be managed by police, or it would be a parking complaint, which is managed by the parking compliance team. So the cases that were opened that would be showing up on this data is some other issue with parking. More than likely, it's going to be a vehicle parked in the front setback. You know, for example, like a large motorhome that's parked in the front driveway, that'd be an example of a parking complaint that we'd address from the code team. Another one is where people park vehicles on unimproved surface. So if you park your vehicle up on the grass in front of your house, that's not an improved surface. So those are the two most common parking complaints that you would see in this data here.
When you get the complaints of parking on an unimproved surface, is it that same allowable time frame of 10 days to move the vehicles?
Correct. Yeah, and that the goal is compliance. So the main thing would be going out there. If it's the first offense, it's mostly trying to educate that person on, you know, maybe there's a possibility they can apply to get another concrete pad poured in that location, or just put a permeable surface where they could park there. If you drive around the university, sometimes you'll see a bunch of college students that have just started parking on their lawn because that's the best place for them to park in their opinion. So that a lot of times it's educating them that that's just not allowed. They need to either, you know, put the vehicle in the driveway, the garage, or park legally on the street in front of the property.
Mr. Mayor, a couple more questions. As you advance forward, one more slide. In regards to the weeds, and we contract out someone to abate those, do we then send the cost of that ticket to the landowner or the property owner?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Corliss, yes, we do. So basically, since the property owner is responsible for the cleanup, we do get bids to make sure that we're not gouging the citizen by high costs. We try to do it as efficiently as possible. We send them a notice saying that they owe that money to pay the contractor. We pay it up front. If that is not paid within a certain number of days, we then put it on the tax roll and they would have to pay it with their taxes.
Texas. Great. And finally, just on the graffiti, I just want to mention, I really appreciate the look into the technology. In my district, we got a lot of complaints on graffiti this last year. And I think the hard part was understanding where in the process it was. We just don't have that transparency yet out. And it does sound like it's a technology issue. I'd also encourage that as we look at this, if we can include in that technology a way for citizens to upload a picture and just be able to do it from their phone and be so much easier than calling the non-emergency hotline for the police. And just to show, and plus it'll probably take away some of the redundancy that I'm sure we're getting. And be able to, for the person who's also filing the complaint, to see where that's at and that it just didn't fall into deaf ears is what people think is happening, though it is being worked on actively by your team. So really appreciate you coming out here today and looking forward to seeing the technology we come up with to help track these, not just with the graffiti, even with the other complaints too. I think it'd be really helpful. Thanks.
Mr. Mayor. Tyler, can you explain to me a little bit more about how code compliance and BPD work together related to alcohol compliance in the different businesses?
Sure. Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Halliburton, this is a topic that definitely gets a lot of attention from time to time. We work very closely with the alcohol compliance officer. Cameron Kolos is new to that position, or the position is actually new. He's been at BPD for about 10 years. The main thing is that we work with the alcohol compliance officer at BPD, and he works directly with the state alcohol beverage control. So because the license is required, to sell alcohol, you have to have a city, state, and county license. And if any one of those licenses is taken away for some reason, we all have to work together. So all three of those levels actually have to work together. So anytime there's an alcohol violation, my team doesn't go patrol bars or anything like that. But when we do get word from one of the law enforcement agencies, we would then also kind of tack on our investigation and go and look at the license and potentially revoke or suspend a license based on that.
And when you do that, is it the 5 folks that you have moving, or the geographical districts moving around the city? Is it them, or is it still the BPD officer that's kind of actually going in and working with those bar owners?
It would go to the code officer for that area. So
Right.
if the bar is in West Boise, then the alcohol compliance would relay all the information to that specific code officer for licensing follow-up.
Awesome. Thank you. I do want to let you know that we have our traffic fatality review task force, and one of the compliments your team got was from our alcohol compliance officer, just how great it has been working with your team and how he's been able to actually address a lot more stuff this last couple of years to reduce drunk driving, various things like that, over serving. And so I really appreciate the work that you do there, because it really is something that saves lives. So thank you.
Mr. Mayor. Tyler, thank you for this presentation. Just one curiosity and then a question. The curiosity is, do we see less code compliance calls or work in neighborhoods that have HOAs where potentially those CCNRs are more restrictive and they've got a formal process for managing?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Morales, great question. I think that's going to be very mixed. As you're probably aware, a lot of HOAs have varying levels of compliance. They can also tend to get a little bit stagnant, and then sometimes they even come to us for help. So I would say most of the time, newer neighborhoods with an HOA are more likely to patrol themselves and kind of resolve issues themselves. A lot of our cases are open in neighborhoods that don't have an HOA, but there's going to be varying examples of both. I would say more than likely less issues when there is an HOA because they kind of have a little bit of control themselves to take care of it, but it's mixed.
Thank you. And then question regarding like, I think it's helpful to remind our neighbors that this is like, you have to make the call, that we are reacting with the resources we have. We're being prudent with those resources. And I'm curious if there are some of these cases where we're noticing recurring issues where we can maybe do something that could be seen as proactive, but essentially make us more efficient. So for example, let's say there is a specific street next to a hotel that gets a lot of commercial vehicles parking in it. They can't park in a residential street. We've had 5 cases, whatever it is. Are there points when code compliance is recognizing where there might be an opportunity to work with a partner or put up a sign or do something that might limit those cases further? If we're seeing, do we see patterns? Are we to a point where we're seeing that kind of data and where we're identifying things like that we just keep whacking at every time?
So I guess to summarize the question, it sounds like you're asking, are there hot spots and do we address those more specifically? I think the answer would be that we would be more than happy to send a code officer or myself to a neighborhood association meeting if they'd ask us to. We don't have probably all the contacts that we need to make that happen, but if there was an effort to get more of a targeted education outreach, that would be great for us. We'd be happy to send them. Going back to the parking complaints, we generally limit our parking enforcement proactively to downtown Boise. If there's issues around the perimeter of the city, we kind of have the code and the animal officers take care of those one-offs. But if we do have a spot where we just have, a good example would be we added a new residential district out near Barber Park based on the floaters. So when we do have, a plethora of problems that police is kind of substantiating that, hey, this is a problem, we'll work together with police to actually add more restrictions in those certain areas. But in general, we just have the 72-hour that applies to the entire city, and that's kind of how we police the rest of the city.
Great. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Corliss?
Sorry, one more question, Tyler. Do you feel that you have the staffing resources you need to address all the compliance complaints that we're seeing coming through?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Corliss, I would say that as of today, we do have the appropriate number of staff. As you're all aware, we had some changes with childcare, and we were basically desperately needing an additional code officer to help with the workload. Now that licensing has been taken off of our plate, I would say, just to be good stewards of the taxpayer dollars, we don't need another body at this time. However, with more development happening as the city grows in the future, I'll pull up my graphic up again, as these numbers continue to increase over the years, we probably will be coming back and asking for additional staffing in the future. But as of today, I think we're appropriately staffed.
Perfect. Thank you.
Tyler, when I was driving down Park Center on Sunday, I noticed a lot more graffiti than I usually do? Do you know if any of that's been taken care of since then?
Mr. Mayor, the Park Center wall is one of the very common areas where we have graffiti. I've actually been working with Emily on a couple of different options we have for that location. I'm not aware of any recent that have been reported to us in the last week or so, but it's definitely one of the worst targets that we have because we have that blank canvas. So we're kind of exploring some ideas about maybe we can get some artwork put up on that. There's a much larger cost to that than I was aware of. So I think that's probably the biggest reason we haven't done anything like that. But that's definitely one of the areas that we're trying to get cleaned up, and hopefully we can get that resolved long term.
Okay, thank you. All right. I think that's it for us. We'll see y'all back at 6 o'clock.